Recap Express is online. I'm going to discuss the movie Soldier Boy, which is based on the true account of the youngest combatant in World War II. Beware of spoilers. Take care and be cautious. A family of three is seen relaxing by a river in Russia at the start of the film, when German fighter planes unexpectedly fly overhead. The youngest of them, Sergei Elyashkov, brags to his mother and older brother about being on top of a tree. The mother orders her children to run and hide in the bushes, but the 6-year-old insists he is not afraid and shoots a catapult at the plane. To everyone's shock, he succeeds in hitting the jets and detonating them. He turns to look, but his family has vanished. Fearful from the dream, Sergei wakes up and calls for his mother. Someone suddenly knocks on his door. He rushes towards it, thinking it's his mother, but a neighboring woman enters in a panic. She tells him that his mother and brother have passed away and gives gratitude to God for keeping him alive. The young child is unable to understand what she is saying and wants to wait for his mother inside the house. He is informed by the woman to flee since the Germans had attacked them. A group of soldiers suddenly approaches their home. Sergei is forced to leave through the window by the woman, but she is shot dead before she can follow him. The young 6-year-old is now living alone and is without friends or family. Sergei sees his entire neighborhood burning behind him as he flees the house. He makes unsuccessful attempts to reach his mother before leaving the area. He eventually finds himself in the midst of the woods after a while of running. Because he is lost, the young child begins to call for his mother to come and get him. He spends that night in the wilderness. The next morning, as enemy soldiers come his way, we observe him drinking water from a river. Sergei hurriedly hides inside a tree's roots after realizing they are hazardous. When a snake approaches, he is terrified but doesn't scream or flee. The troops terrify Sergei more than the snake does. After the soldiers finish their meal by the river and leave, Sergei takes their leftovers and eats them all night long. However, the young lad is worn out at the end of the day. He hasn't eaten properly in 2 days and has been wandering aimlessly. Even when he stumbles and limps, he continues to move on. He eats some wild fruit he sees along the path after seeing them, but just then, he is caught off guard by an explosion that happens behind him. The boy experiences vertigo and begins to see someone approaching from behind him. He informs the person he has a weapon and is not afraid even in these dire circumstances. He moves forward with a limp, but eventually passes out. 2 soldiers approach him while he sleeps. The action is cut to Commander Kuznetsov, waiting for his patrol soldiers at the Russian army base. The young child, who is frail and damaged, is brought in by them. The youngster opens up and identifies himself when the soldiers say they are on his side. When the youngster shakes hands with the commander, the troops laugh and urge that he identify himself as well. The troops approach the young child with tenderness and surround him. He is forced to consume water and food. Even the cold commander looks after the child. Sergei's wounds are attended to by Katya, a nurse who is also enchanted by his charisma. Because he aspires to be a military when he grows up, the child requests that she draw a tank on his injuries. Even the wounded warriors converse with the child and feel better. The commander's gun and his batch captivate Sergei. After taking out the bullets, the commander also responds to the young boy's inquiries and gives him a chance to play with his honorary pistol. Sergei talks about being a soldier and displays the tank that is sketched on his stomach. The youngster is recovering quickly. The commander refuses to let the youngster stay with the unit, stating that it won't be safe. Instead, he wants to send Sergei to an orphanage, as requested by the nurse Katya. All of the soldiers' free time was spent with Sergei. Throughout the day, many people stop over to see him. They give him food that their families sent from a distance, and they even let him use their binoculars. One day a soldier approaches the commander and requests permission for the boy to remain with the regiment. The troops form a strong bond with the child and view him as one of their own. The burden of the conflict is lifted by his presence. For the boy's own safety, the commander is determined about transferring him to the orphanage. The next day, the enemy attacks, inflicting great casualties on the men. Sergei is picked up by a car and driven to the orphanage. The commander tells the youngster the news and presents him with a wooden honorary pistol. The child hugs the commander back and says he's worried for his safety. In his hug, the commander melts and alters his mind. Sergei is asked to stay with the troops in his father's place. The soldiers are overjoyed to have Sergei stay with them as they search for infantry uniforms for the young child that evening. Sergei is awakened by the commander, who also hands him the clothing. He moves about with them on, appearing to be a real soldier. They begin referring to him as their little army child. The Germans assault the unit from the air while the child rushes around. The troops fight the others while swiftly escorting Sergei to safety. The number of soldiers hurt is rising quickly. Sergei provides water to thirsty soldiers, out of a desire to be useful. One of them, who has a bandage covering his eyes, requests him to read a letter from his family. The young guy wants to assist but is unable to read. He takes the letter and begins fabricating the contents, saying the soldier's cow is secure at home. The others advise the soldier to accept the story and laugh when he claims he doesn't own a cow. He reads everyone else's letters in a similar way to lift their spirits. The commander and Katya might be seen conversing in the scene that follows. Although they do not express their feelings, the two appear to be attracted to one another. Later, Sergei informs the commander that he is a battalion orderly and begins addressing himself as one. The youngster then witnesses one of the soldiers' stations being damaged by the attack. He learns from the commander to remove his hat in honor of the fallen soldier. He insists the commander give him a work the following day and is given the assignment to distribute the letters to the soldiers. He skillfully completes his assignment and even gets the warriors to dance. The next day, Sergei uses his binoculars to venture a little bit outside of the facility. When he notices a leg moving from a haystack while he is playing with it, he immediately runs back to the regiment and informs the soldiers of his discovery. The troops follow the boy despite their skepticism. Two German spies are discovered hidden underneath when they get close to the haystack, alerting the group. The spy is praised for his intelligence after the spies are captured. The following evening, the commander presents Sergei with the adoption paperwork. The child now has him as his legal father. Sergei takes the commander to confess to Katya because he is aware of the commander's emotions for her. However, the two mistakenly believe she is interested in someone else when they observe her talking to a different man. The Germans launch another assault on the base. This time, Sergei gives the troops his best by giving the soldiers on the front lines ammo, but they order him to return to the shed since it is too hazardous outside. The commander and others are frantic when he arrives at the shed because the phone's connection with the colonel has been lost. The damaged cables are being repaired by a soldier. Following the soldier, Sergei observes that he has sustained deadly injuries. He gets the dead soldier's advice on how to fix the cables and carries it out himself. More troops are called after the connection is restored. Everyone's lives are saved by the 6-year-old. The commander and Katya are later seen conversing by the river. Finally, the commander tells her how much he loves her and begs her to be Sergei's mother. Before Katya can say anything further, a soldier approaches them and hands the commander a letter stating that they have been dispatched from the base. Katya is over the moon at this point. The next day, Sergei and all the men depart for their new base. However, they encounter a minefield along the road, which causes some of their cars to be destroyed. The group's orderly, with whom Sergei had a close relationship, perishes in the explosion while the commander is injured. He sobs while hugging the commander. They travel to their new base while carrying the injured people along with them. When they eventually arrive at the opposite base, they encounter the general, the commander's boss. He commends the captain for having such a smart child and expresses his own admiration for the youngster's ambition. Their division receives a guard's banner the following day, and the boy also receives one. When the general hands him his badge, he makes a commitment to save his nation. The commander is imprisoned beneath the rubble after their base is ruthlessly attacked one night. Sergei begs his father to be saved while sobbing for him. The other troops respond to his request by bringing out the leader. The following day, Sergei approaches a commander who is hurt. While attempting to save the commander, he suffered hand injuries. The youngster is now an indispensable member of the group. He travels everywhere they go in the fight because he has no relatives nearby. The unit is seen relocating to a different base as the film comes to a close. He even took part in the Battle of Stalingrad, and he traveled to Poland with the soldiers, according to a voice in the background. He is today recognized as the youngest soldier in history, and the epic tale of his bravery is being told to the entire globe. To support the channel, switch on notifications, subscribe for more content like this, and leave a like. I appreciate your attention.